everybody. This is Barbara from Barbara and Friends, and we are here on the Barbara and Friends show, and I am so excited to be here. And my special guest today, I'm so happy to have him here, is Kowalchuk. And Wes is, I met Wes on LinkedIn, and it's just such a fun thing because he is a marketing strategist. And, we all have to build our businesses. And, me, I'm Barbara Ellison, and I'm your personality pro because personality does drive reality. The thing is, though, personality is also in your business. And business strategy is all about learning to get along, to be the best. And that's where business strategy comes in. So I just thought it would be a great way to give you some tips and strategies and how to build your business. So Wes, I am so glad you're here, and welcome, welcome, welcome. So I have to ask you, what is a business strategist and how did you become a business strategist? So tell us a little bit about yourself.
Thank you. First of all, Barbara, thank you for inviting me to speak on your shows. It's awesome to be here. To become a business strategist, that's, a bit of a loaded question because I can't really describe what that is until I tell you a little bit of my backstory. So I'm working on business number 8 right now. Business number 7 is my coaching firm. And to get into coaching, I had to go bankrupt first. So I ran a multi-million-dollar oil field business until 2015, when the downturn of the oil economy and the prices hit rock bottom. So did our business, along with, up here in Canada, I'm going to say probably about 15 or 20,000 other businesses went out of business that same year. Really, really ugly, dark time in our history, for sure. And for me to go through all of that was a really dark period in my life. I mean, we went bankrupt right at Christmas, like 2 days before Christmas. Had to move out of our home, a nice 2,500 square foot home. Ended up moving in with my sister-in-law and her family in her 3-bedroom tiny condo. So you can kind of imagine what that created. A very humbling experience for sure. But the 3-4 months after that was really dark for me. Like, suicide was on the table. I wanted to stick a gun in my mouth and pull the trigger, simply because I felt like I was a failure as a business owner, failure as a husband, failure as a dad. I couldn't even provide for my family. Like, I had zero. And I had to go out and find a job because I didn't even have enough money to start another business. And so even though we were trying to do that at the time with myself and a couple other partners, and that was business number 5. And in that whole process, I realized that in the same week, I'd applied to work as a business development manager for 2 coaching firms, and both of them replied back to me in the same week wanting to interview me. And the funny thing was, this is the only 2 companies that had wanted to interview me in the 300 or 400 resumes I'd put out in the last 4 months.
Wow.
Right? And so once I got involved with the coaching firm in Calgary, I realized that I had to go through everything I've gone through in my life to put me right where I was, because I found my purpose and I found my passion in helping business owners to figure out what it is that they don't know about growing their business so they can avoid doing what I just did, which was go bankrupt, right? Had I had a strong cash flow, had I had a systematized process for cash flow and understanding my financial statements in a very deep way. And now, don't get me wrong, I've been reading P&Ls and balance sheets for probably 20 years before that business started. So I had a really good handle on it. But there was these little tiny things in there that were waving their red flags that I didn't see when everything started going down. And, at the end of the day, it was too late. It wasn't anything I could do, right? I should have sold my business in 2014 is what I should have done.
Hindsight, wonderful.
Oh, it's just so wonderful. So
wonderful.
Absolutely. And so going from that forward, I got involved as a business coach in training for a couple of months, and then found out my daughter tried to commit suicide for the 3rd time. So I put her in long-term drug treatment and to save her life. And in that same process, I saved my own. Her and I are both alcoholic addicts in recovery now, almost 5 years, which is pretty amazing because she's actually working at the drug treatment center that she graduated from as a peer counselor, which is it's awesome. It is totally awesome. But that whole process transformed my life into helping me realize some of the big pieces that I was missing in my life, right? And one of them was community. All along in my entire life, whether I was in business or not, I felt isolated. Like I was on this island in the ocean by myself, right? Stranded. Nobody to talk to, nobody to call, nobody to say, hey, how do I do this? Especially when I was in business. So going forward from that, I learned a lot of growth lessons about how community is required in our business, in our personal lives. And getting into coaching allowed me to really figure out what I needed to help business owners see and do and become for them, so that they can really start to understand what it is that they need to do. And most of them, their thinking is down at this level. Their businesses, they want to get to here, and they think it's a straight line to get there. But first of all, you need to grow yourself to this level, and then your business will follow, right? And a big piece of that, and especially with me, was understanding how my brain works and how I needed to get out of, like, I've always been a really big visionary, but getting my brain to put the pieces together in a way that didn't complicate it, so it was easy, actionable steps, so that I could get to where I needed to be, so that my business would follow. And that's been a long growing curve. As a recovering addict and alcoholic, it's imposter syndrome was huge, right? Especially going bankrupt. I look back at it and I go, like, how am I supposed to be able to help a business owner become successful? Like, how am I supposed to do that? And every time
Who am I to do that?
Yeah, like, absolutely. Who am I to do that? But at the end of the day, because you see a lot of the gurus on social media and stuff that are going, hey, we built this business to 200 million and exited it with 77x EBITDA cash out, and all these successes that they've got back to back. But what they don't talk about is all the failures they had in between. And the failures, you actually learn more from the failure than you do from the success, because you learn what not to do. And the first $1 million you earn is the hardest million you'll ever earn. But once you figure that part out, the rest is easy, right? It's easy to do it again because there's a process, right? And if you can figure out that process, it's there. Most business owners don't know what the process is.
And don't you think, and I know we talked about this the other day, don't you think so often that people just don't have the mindset to be willing to do the steps that you just talked about? And one of the things that I loved what you said is that you're on business. It doesn't matter how many businesses you've done. It's getting up and going again.
That's right. That's right. It's I think a key word in my story, I think, would be resilience.
Right.
Right. And because I've always gotten back up. I mean, even when I was in those 3 months of dark stage, I know people that have been there for years, and right. That's by choice, right? Mm-hmm. I know, I'll be honest, if it wasn't for my beautiful wife, I probably would have stuck that gun in my mouth. But because she was in my life and she was showing me how much, it's been a while since I talked about this, how much I had to lose by doing that, it was pretty easy not to go there. But I'll be honest, I didn't go near my gun safe for a year simply because I didn't trust myself, right? But it's been a while, and things are, I'm in a much better space, but it took a while because I had to dig in to figure out what was going on in my brain, right? And I started reading books like Joe Dispenza, Evolve Your Brain, Psycho-Cybernetics. It's an old book. It was written in I don't know what it was, in the 60s, 50s, 60s, but powerful stuff on how your brain functions. And learning how to incorporate that into daily activities in my world made just a huge difference, right? Powerful. So when we talk about business owners going from thinking down here to get their thinking up to here. And what you said earlier about their mindset is, if most business owners, myself included, come from an employee background.
Exactly.
We worked for somebody else until we decided that, hey, I can do it better than you. See you, go start my own business, hang up my own shingle.
Right.
And then, long as we're good on the tools or good with our craft, we can make it work. And that's good as an employee, but you cannot grow a business if you're good on your craft, right? You have to know how to grow a business. And there's certain fundamental pieces that you need to put together to make that work. One of my best clients right now, he's been with me, it's just a short time, but he's had a phenomenal amount of growth. And just before Christmas, he told me, he said, Wes, he said, I thought all I had to do was be good at my craft and I'd be successful in business.
Mhm.
And he goes, how wrong I was. Now he realizes that there's certain things that he needs to be able to do to build his business. Lead generation, marketing and sales, conversions, higher prices, transactions, adding more value, and then putting all the systems in the background to get his team to be able to run that operation. It's a simple process, but we manage to complicate the crap out of it all the time. And at the end of the day, it's really 6 things fundamentally that you need to grow your business successfully. When you get to the other end, when you get all that stuff there and you get to buy back your time, now you get to exit your strategy, right? You get to exercise it, and you can sell your business for X, 10 or 15X EBITDA, which I think right now in the US, because I'm working on a brokerage joint venture partnership in Miami. I think it's Miami, Florida anyway, down in South Florida. 1 to 1.5X EBITDA is what their current selling business is for, which is terrible. But that's because business owners are just, if without them in the business, they don't have one. So they have to stay behind for 3 or 4 years to transition the leadership from them to the new owner, and then they can walk away with their, golden egg or whatever they want to call it.
Exactly.
Right? Way better way to do it though. There's way better.
Right. And don't you find that so often, and I'm just going to be honest with myself about one of the things that I had trouble with sometimes was that, when you're first starting, your cash flow is not the best. And so consequently, I can't afford to hire a virtual assistant. Well, yeah, but you're spending all your time doing the $10 tasks that a virtual assistant, you can pay them, and you're missing out on the $1,000 tasks, which are, like in my case, speaking and doing interviews and those kinds of things.
Yeah.
And so often, and I can remember the day I woke up and went, Barbara, for heaven's sakes, get a life. I'll kind of mentally say, Barbara, get a life. This is a business.
Absolutely it is.
You have to treat it like a business, and you have to have team members. And once I put my team, some of them, I don't have all of them yet. Hey, I'm honest. But you know what? I've got some key ones that have and it has made such a difference. Oh, wow. And I think that's where so often we get caught up in the, I can't afford to, but you can't afford not to, but where's the cash flow? And
when you're in startup, the whole goal in startup is to get the hell out of startup as fast as you can.
Exactly.
There's a matrix. It's a simple graph. Here's your income, and you have a certain finite amount of startup money, and it's going down every day you burn it. And if the two meet and your income exceeds your expenses, you slide into what's called the fun stage in your business, to quote Les McCown. And that fun stage is where you start making more money and you start having lots of fun. You start adding team members, start doing all those cool things. And most of it is you're winging it, because you really don't know what you're doing, but you're making sales, you're closing deals, and you're putting stuff together, and you're doing it. The stage that where I really like to focus on and help my clients is when they start adding staff to their team. It adds complexity, right? So when you get 5 or more staff, complexity starts to kick in, because now you need to manage it. Now you need to become the leader. And if you don't have systems and processes in place, and if you love to micromanage, have at her, great, right? But you're going to put a cap on your revenue, because you will never be able to grow beyond that until you
Right.
can relinquish and delegate control and
Right.
add more staff members to the team so you can duplicate what you do. When you get to that point and you can manage with processes and systems, you can navigate the whitewater in your business relatively easy. But every business has to get through the whitewater. If you don't have the right processes, you don't have the right systems or the right teams, wheels start falling off, get wobbly, customers start phoning and complaining. Instead of delivering 2 truckloads of soap to one grocery store, you end up delivering it to the other grocery store that didn't order it, and you go, what happened? Right? And so that's the wheels falling off. And the process you need to put in place for that is one process that would solve that problem. You have to be a really good problem solver as a leader. Once you get through the other side of the whitewater is what Les McCown calls predictable success.
Right.
And that's where you can start to grow predictably every year, 25%, 30%, and you just keep putting money into it. It keeps growing. And I'm not going to talk about the other side. If you get over processed, then you start dying. The company starts dying, right? You start needing all this paperwork to fill out a form so you can go to the bathroom kind of stuff.
Right.
That's when your business dies. And, the big corporations of the world, they've gotten really good at managing that. But I'll be honest, because I've worked for a couple of them, they're still over processed.
Right. And that's where you get the some of the, like right now I'm finding, like, even because with us, we're a technology training company, and because we're still small enough that, I mean, we are innovating and bringing out so many new things, but you get some of these big corporations that it takes years for them to make one change.
Absolutely.
And
that's where the opportunity lies in the middle of this COVID for us small business owners, because we're small and nimble. We can pivot on a dime.
Exactly.
We can take advantage of the opportunities. But there's 3 kinds of business owners in the world right now. There's the ones that are constantly looking for that opportunity, constantly looking for ways to pivot, shift, take advantage. And then there's the business owners that are watching what happens. They're kind of going, well, I don't know, is this a pandemic or is this the government? We're just going to wait and see. And then the third kind of business owner, they've completely succumbed to the Crisis News Network and all the social media stuff that's, saying, hey, Chicken Little, the sky's falling. Unfortunately, those business owners are probably going to be out of business. If they're not already, they're going to be out of business soon, simply because they stopped doing everything that makes their business grow. And I'll talk about that in a minute. The second group, they're on their way out too, but they don't know it yet, simply because they're standing still. And there's no standing still in business. You're either going uphill or you're going downhill, right? The first group I talked about, those are the movers and shakers. Those are the ones that you and I are finding in all the networking groups that are looking and actively advertising and marketing their business. And they're looking for ways to get the next client in the door, right? To be able to serve them in a greater way. And those are the kind of business owners that I want to work with, simply because they're open and in pain. They're in enough pain. They know that if they keep doing what they're doing, it's not going to work out well. So they're trying to figure it out. They're frustrated, but they're trying to figure it out.
Exactly. And I think that is where so many of us are so excited about what is going forward, because of all the things that you just talked about, all the things that are now moving and shaking and coming out, the new technology and the new, you name it, there's something new going on.
Oh,
so let me ask you this. What are you the most excited about going forward?
Oh, yeah. So, I mean, there's a lot of good things. So I'm excited and, a little bit trepid about some of the changes in technology that are coming forward, because there's so much stuff that we're going to have to start looking at doing to be able to market our businesses the right way. So And one of them is artificial intelligence, and the
Mhm.
other one is the change from our smartphones and that type of technology to voice activated audio command technology. We're not going to be using our phones very much longer. They're going to soon be a dying breed. I think Apple and their Apple Watch is going to be a powerful tool, because we're not going to need to look at it to read our emails. We're not going to need to look at it to dial a number. All we need to do is say, "Hey Siri," right?
Right.
And it'll do that. Right now, Alexa, I was having a conversation with a prospect here. I think it was just before Christmas, and it just blew me away, because I was telling him this story about what Gary Vaynerchuk was saying about how this technology is going to change
Mhm.
how we do business. And I said, "Hey Alexa, order a pizza." And he had Alexa sitting in the corner, and I said, "Where would you like to order it from?"
I know.
And that's the power of what this technology is going to do. And us as business owners, small business, we need to create a social presence for ourselves,
Right.
because if we don't, we're not going to be searchable on Google, because there'll be nobody to go search for it. It'll be, "Hey Siri, show me the nearest personality coach."
Right.
And if your social presence isn't there, they won't find you.
Right.
And if they don't find you, nobody will. Right. And so that's going to be the challenge. I think the biggest challenge for business owners going forward is how to figure out that marketing piece that they need to do. And trust me, there's some really good marketing agencies out there to help you with your social media. There's also some really bad ones that are just going to take your money and run. And so kind of what I like to do with my clients is help educate them to how to find the right ones. And the only way they can find the right ones is if they understand how to make marketing work for them. And then they can tell the agency what they need done. Because if they just leave it up to the agency, they're going to get fleeced, right? So there's 5 ways you make money in your business. Everything else you do in your business is to support those 5 things. And you know the 80-20 rule, right?
Right.
Well,
Yeah.
those 5 things produce 80% of your revenue,
80% of your revenue. Right.
but we only spend 20% of our time doing it.
Right.
Right. And so what would happen if you realize what those 5 things were, and you could spend 25% of your time on it, or 30% of your time on it? How
Mhm.
much more money could you put into your business? Right. And that's the powerful thing. And those 5 things, the first one is lead generation.
Right.
Right. And instinctively, business owners in a startup know they need leads. They have to get them in, or the business dies. Right. So then it's unfortunate, but 80% of businesses never get out of startup.
Right.
And that's either because, they had a really good idea and they just weren't good at sales, or, and I've seen that happen. Good inventors are really good at that part,
Mhm.
crappy at the sales part. Right.
Right.
So they have to partner with someone who's really good at sales so they can get that out there. But if you don't have lead generation working for you, right, it's not going to happen. And I'll give you a really good example from my own experience in my own business. I was like 4 years into my oil field service business, and I only did one way to market my business. It was direct sales. I picked up the phone and I called my client and said, "Hey, I'm coming to Calgary. Let's meet." And that's how I did it. I had a list of 300 clients that I worked with. And if they weren't working with me, I phoned them until they did work with me, right? Or told me to piss off, one or the other.
Exactly. Exactly.
Right. And one day I phoned my mentor, a really good friend of mine, and I was whining to him about, how come I didn't have enough clients, didn't have enough money, didn't have enough cash flow, blah, blah, blah. And he goes, "Well, what's your marketing plan look like?" And I go, "Well, it's sitting over here on my desk." And he go, "Why?" And he goes, "Well, are you using it?" And I go, "Well, no, I don't have the money for it." And he goes,
Exactly.
"Figure it out." Because at that point in my career in business, for us to understand what marketing advertising was, I looked in the phone book. There's in the oil field service, in the oil field industry, we had this big yellow book, and it was called the Bible. And if you were in there, you could be found. They could call you, "Hey, get over here and help us out." If you weren't in that book, nobody called you. Well, I spent $30,000 on an ad, and I simply took the ad of my competitor who'd been in business 10 years longer, looked like he was doing really well. I copied his ad and I changed the picture, changed some of the words, put my stuff on it. Boom. Good. Nobody ever called, ever. And you know why that is? Because the marketing was all wrong.
Right.
There was no, the ad was totally wrong. And so what I do is I help my clients figure out the ad. We use a tool called the conversion equation,
Okay.
right? Which allows you to identify what's going on in the prospect's mind.
Exactly.
And then deliver a headline that interrupts their thinking, right? Because we have so much advertising going on out there right now.
Right.
How often do you just swipe on social media?
Until something stops you.
That's right.
Until something.
Next time you do that and something stops you,
Mhm.
ask yourself what it was about this ad that stopped me.
Exactly. That's what I do.
Yeah.
That's what.
Everybody does that.
Yeah.
But if your ad is like everybody else's,
Right.
why are they going to stop?
It sets you apart. You're like, I always say, what makes you who you are within what you do?
Yeah.
And people will resonate with that, and you will find your own tribe. Whatever you want to call it, your tribe or your audience or your ideal, whatever. And that is absolutely the truth, because we all talk with a different voice. And
yeah. I'd love to be able to help every business owner on the planet, but they're not going to relate to me.
they're not all going to.
I'm a little bit of a bull in a china shop. I've got a rigging background, and so I kind of stick with the trades kind because they're a rough lot.
Right.
You know, and I can speak the language.
Right.
I don't gel well with.
Right. That would be like me trying to talk to a 20-year-old.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's not going to work.
Who knows? Who knows? Right. I have a good friend. She's a bookkeeper, and she's had a couple of coaches work with her in the past. And you know, when they start talking, her eyes glaze over because they just don't relate. I talked to her the first conversation we ever had, and she goes, "Holy cow! I know he was telling me that, but it didn't resonate until you said it." Right. And that's just how human beings are. And that's why the power of personalities becomes such a big thing. And that's why, you know, I'm looking forward to being able to work with you in the future, because there's so much that business owners need to learn around how to connect with their best clients.
Their best clients.
And lead generation and marketing, advertising is all about how to do that. Right. But you have to start with your message.
Right.
And if you don't have your message, if your message is the same as everyone else's, and your offer is, hey, call me so I can sell you stuff.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. You're going to get 1% that are ready to buy. I'm talking about going after the 100% of your clientele that possibly could be buying in the next 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, 120 days. And you put them into a pipeline, and put them into a funnel, and you nurture them. And you're never, ever, ever going to be shy of clients ever again. But most of business owners don't understand how to do that. Right. And they've tried, you know, first HNP networking marketing I went to, networking event I went to, I think it was North Carolina. I can't remember now. But I asked everyone in the room, I said, how many of you guys marketing is an expense? 60% put their hand up. And right away that says, hey, you guys are doing it wrong. Book a one-on-one with me. Let's have a chat. I can help you out.
Right.
You know what the sad part is? Only one phoned me.
Very few of them do.
Only one phoned me. Yeah. Right. And I don't know why that is. It's fear that I might have to spend money, or it's fear that maybe I don't know something, or it's fear I'll be found out that I'm stupid, or fear I don't know what it is. But whatever it is, if you're frustrated, find a coach. They'll help you figure it out. And if you don't gel with that one, keep looking for another one. You'll find one. Right?
Right. Exactly. That's why I love having conversations with people. I mean, in some of the conversations I've had with people, they've been okay, but nothing that I would, continue. And yet other people like you and I, it was like, I said, oh yeah, Wes and I, yeah, we're because there's a bit of a synergy. And I think sometimes for myself, I have found so often people are afraid. The fear is that they don't want to admit that they don't know something.
Oh, and I think you hit that right on the head.
Is huge.
Business owners, there is so much they don't know about growing a business.
Don't want to admit, and I know that because I was there for such a long time. That like I didn't want to admit that I didn't know how to do something. And I didn't want to admit that, okay, yeah, I don't know how to do this. Help. To admit that we needed help.
That is a very valid statement, because
Yeah.
I know that I'm an alcoholic in recovery.
Right.
I never asked for help forever.
Right.
And in my fourth business, I finally got a coach involved in my oil field service business. We're about, I don't know, 4 years in. It was actually right after that conversation about what's your marketing look like.
Yeah.
I planted the seed. I got a coach involved.
Right.
And, we only had them involved for a short period of time, like 4 months. We spent like $45,000 to get them in there and helping us out. And 4 months later, I go like, what are we doing this for? They're not helping us at all. And so I punted them out.
Right.
But what we did in that first 4 months with their guidance and their accountability was we did marketing research. We figured out what our core story was. We figured out what our messaging needed to be. We figured out what our offer had to be. We figured out how we're going to deliver it. And then we went out and started doing it. We executed it.
Right.
That 4 months,
huge.
12 months later, we doubled our revenue.
Right.
Right. Which was exactly what he told me on the phone, on the radio. When I heard the ad, he goes, how would you like to double your revenue in the next 12 months? I put my hand up, boom, I was on the phone, had it done. But 4 months in, I'm looking at all the expense, all the money we're spending. I'm going like, I can't afford this. So we got rid of them. And I look back now, had I kept that coach around, they could have guided us through that super growth stage. Because we did that not just 1 year, but we did 2 years back to back. We grew 100%. It went from $700,000 in revenue to almost 2.5 million in 24 months. We had 25 staff. Do you think that added some stress, some complexities? Exactly. Yeah, huge. We figured out some of that stuff, but some of it we didn't. And that's ultimately why we ended up going bankrupt. Exactly. But look at guys like the CEO of Walt Disney. Do you think he has a coach? Right. Look at Tiger Woods. Do you think he has a coach?
Tiger Woods, I think, has 3.
He's got 8.
Or 8. Yeah, I knew he had 3.
Right. And so, one of my book mentors and podcast mentors, Todd Herman, right? He's a high performance athletic coach. He had three NFL players that are on his roster playing in the Super Bowl 2 weekends ago. Do you think they needed to have a high performance coach to help them? No, they're at the top of their game. But why do they have a coach? So they can even be better. Even be better. And that's where the power of a coach comes in to help a business. And I like to say we take good businesses and turn them into great businesses, like the book by Jim Collins, Good to Great, right? Mm-hmm. There's good businesses out there, and then there's great. And the only difference between the two is leadership and the abilitingness to have an outside influence to guide them through their blind spots.
Right. Because you cannot possibly know everything, and you cannot possibly just to instinctively, because you don't have it within you. It's like with me, when I came up with the tagline that I'm your personality pro, that was a result of being in an accountability group.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it was like, all of a sudden, it was just like little breadcrumbs.
Yeah.
But if you don't ever have a breadcrumb, how are you going to ever follow it? So, Wes, this has been amazing. Thank you so much. So much. So now, how do people get in touch with you?
Well, probably the easiest way is on Instagram, which is business_impact_coaching_Inc. That's a bit of a long title, but I couldn't just use Business Impact. Or go to my website, which is business-impact.ca. And there's a contact tab there, reach out. And that's probably the easiest way. I do webinars. I do offer lots of free consultations, but I also give away a lot of the stuff that I do. simply because I know business owners need help, right? And going through what I've done, I know what they're going through. So, it's part of my opportunity to create world abundance through business to success, to give them, some of the stuff that they might need to get through the next stage, even if they can't afford it. Here, take this, go
Right.
use it, apply it, you'll grow, right?
And I think that's the key word, is sometimes you can take one little thing, you can give somebody one little thing, but when they go and apply it, it's like teaching somebody, if you give somebody a fish, well, you fed them for that meal, but if you teach them one little tactic of how to fish, then you fed them forever.
Yeah,
And
absolutely. And
that's
that's
absolutely so true.
that's the big difference between failure and success. We look at knowledge, wisdom, all that stuff. It's all great and fanciful, but it's absolutely useless if you don't apply it in an action to move yourself forward, whether it's either you personally
Mhm.
or professionally or in business. You have to keep growing, because if you're not growing, you're going to die.
You're dying, right? So, well, Wes, thanks so much again for coming on Barbara and Friends. And hey, you know what? We've talked about it. Reach out, because I think one of the biggest things, that the biggest mistakes so often that business owners make, is that they think that they have to do everything themselves, or they feel they let themselves feel. And this was me, that I'm the only one that's dealing with this, whatever this is. Reach out, ask for help. Because one little question, one little tip can absolutely turn your future around. So just, reach out. And so this is Barbara Ellison. I am your personality pro, because personality does drive reality. And I just want to wish you all the best and have a great day. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.
Awesome. Well,